Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Sweden and we're going to go back to a brewery who have featured on the channel once before, but that was quite a long time ago in 2016 or 2017, and I'm honestly not sure why I've never reviewed another beer from these guys since. I think I just kind of haven't come across anything from them in quite a long time, but this is one that just caught my eye when I saw it being released recently in one of the Unfiltered assortment, so fingers crossed it's a good beer. For this one then we are going to return to Västerås and we're going to have a look at my second beer from Coppersmiths Brewery. So this one is called the Pons Pils. It's the unfiltered version coming in at 5.2% ABV. There is a gluten-free version of this beer and a filtered one, both of which I think come in at 4.8% ABV. But this particular one was released as part of the Tillfälligt assortment on the 6th of October 2020 through Systembolaget here in Sweden. And yeah, I picked this one up because, as I've told you on the channel numerous times recently, I am going through a little bit of a lager phase, and I've noticed that a lot of the breweries in Sweden are now producing Pilsners, Helles, some of them are doing Dunkels, Dockholbox and Schwarz beers and things like that as well. There seems to be quite a shift in focus to the lager beers at the moment, and I'm very in favour of that actually. I've been enjoying a lot of these different beers actually, so fingers crossed Coppersmiths also have something positive to offer to that new trend in Sweden. And yeah, hopefully this turns out to be another very nice beer. You will see another lager beer reviewed from these guys later in the month. That is the Mosaic Lager, and that was released as part of the Lokales Moskaligt assortment for October of 2020 as well. So you will see a video for that one a little bit later on actually, but I thought I'd review this one first since it was the Tillfälligt one. So yeah, really curious to see how this one turns out, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this beer as well. Fingers crossed this is another very nice Pilsner. So yeah, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Coppersmiths Brewery, and hopefully you can see more beyond this month in the fairly near future. There's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Coppersmiths Brewery then, on to my brewery notes. So this brewery was founded back in 2013 by Jörn Karlsson and Petri Karkuhopi, although it is the latter who is the main man driving the company now from what I understand. And as I mentioned to you earlier, these guys are based in Västerås, which is about 100 kilometres out to the west of Stockholm. So the idea for a brewery first arose in 2011 apparently, and this was after they'd done a little bit of home brewing together. So in 2012 they visited various conferences on the beer industry and also a manufacturing plant in Italy to get some idea of how to make their own brewery, and this came before they completed their business plan in 2013. So their equipment arrived in early 2014, and they also invested quite heavily in lab equipment for quality control and things like that, and they were eventually ready to produce their first beers in April of 2014. So the brewery itself is based in the Saltängen area out to the west of the city, which is an industrial estate. The brewery has a floor space of about 600 square metres, and they started off with an annual brewing capacity of around 200,000 litres of beer per year. But they also import beer into Sweden these days, and they've been gradually scaling up the brewery. They produced around 500,000 litres of beer, 500,000 litres in 2018, and they're currently working their way up to produce around 1 million litres of beer per year. And I'm guessing that's why these beers are becoming a little bit more widely available throughout Sweden. But in 2020 they also started proceedings to begin their own restaurant in the Rocklunda district of the city, where I understand the football team, hockey team and things like this are all based actually. So they're going to have a big restaurant for the venues and stuff out there, and that looks as if it is going to be pretty cool actually. They've also had a restaurant at the brewery in recent times, but I think that was kind of put on hold because of the whole kind of COVID-19 coronavirus situation actually. But these guys have been doing very well over the last little while. They employ about 10 people these days from what I understand, and as of October 2020 when I'm filming this review for you, they've produced around 100 different kinds of beer according to Untappd. So yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Coppersmiths Brewery for the moment. If you want to learn more, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can of course check out the great beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, another thing that's probably worth pointing out is that their brewmaster, from what I understand, is German, and he used to work for Coppersmiths Brewery, the cider brewery. So yeah, this apparently is his second stint in Sweden, and he is planning on staying here a little bit longer this time, from what I understand. So maybe this is the reason they're doing a few more lager beers and things, actually, if they have a German brewmaster. So yeah, this one should be quite an interesting beer. But yeah, as I say, check out all those links in the description below, and you can learn more about all those different beers that they've done. So yeah, let's have a taste of this one then and see how we get on. So really curious to see how this one turns out. So as you can see, the artwork on this one is pretty nice. There is the Coppersmiths Brewery symbol, which is pretty damn impressive, I have to say. Västerås. Yeah, this is one of the things in Sweden that I don't really get. You know, the spellings, the W and the V seem to be interchangeable in different places. So sometimes you will see, I'm sure you'll see Västerås spelled with like V and then the A after it, but yeah, I'm not sure about that. Correct me on that if I'm wrong, but yeah, the W's and the V's in Swedish seem to be interchangeable, and that's one of the things that really confuses me as a non-native Swedish speaker when I'm trying to, you know, I'm trying to learn the language, of course. But yeah, really nicely presented. This one, the artwork is quite nice and modern. A 440ml can. I think I paid about 30 Swedish kroners for this, which is like €3, you know, about £2.50 or something like that. So about $3, $3 American 25 for those of you watching over in the States. So yeah, this one should be really quite nice, actually. 440ml. Like I said to you, the Pond's Pills, there are a few different versions of this. This one is the unfiltered 5.2% version. There is a gluten-free version, which I think is 4.8, and there is another filtered version, which I think is also a little bit lower than the 5.2. But yeah, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting then. As I mentioned to you earlier, this beer was released as part of the Tillfällig assortment throughout Sweden on the 6th of October 2020. So yeah, this one should hopefully be a very, very nice beer. An unfiltered Pilsner. One of my favourite beers, one of my kind of go-to beers, if you like. I don't really drink very much outside of the channel, especially at the moment, because I've had so many beers given to me over the last little while. Which is it's in some ways it's a very good thing. It's a nice problem to have, but in some ways it can be a little bit daunting. But yeah, one of my favourite kind of go-to beers, if I ever want them, would be, it's either usually Leffe Blonde or Pilsner Urquell. I love a little bit of Pilsner Urquell. The Pilsner style, of course, originates in Bohemia, which is now the Czech Republic. It used to be part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. That area was kind of lived in by both ethnic Czechs and ethnic German Austrians. I guess you could say, yeah. Sudeten Germans, I guess you would call them. But yeah, the Pilsner beer was developed by an ethnic German brewer in Bohemia, in Pilsen, hence the name Pilsner. Pilsner was the German name for the Czech city of Pilsen. But yeah, not a very nice man apparently, but he certainly made a good beer style. So yeah. But anyway, where I was going with that was that Pilsner Urquell have an unfiltered pils that you can only get at the pub that they have in Pilsen. So I would recommend that you go and try that, actually. But yeah, as you can see with this one, this is poured a lovely bright kind of golden yellow. This looks like a kind of New England Pale Ale or something like this, to be honest with you. If you shine the light through this, this really does look like some of these New England session IPAs, kind of New England Pale Ales that you're getting these days. You can see that the beer poured with about a quarter to a half finger of a frothy, perfect white head. That's faded away to just be a very thin foamy layer, and there's a little island of bubbles just sitting floating in the middle of that. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones going up towards that surface there, but I mean overall it does look pretty nice. And you can see, if I put my fingers behind the glass there, this one is pretty damn nice in terms of its colour. So yeah, it looks like a very, very inviting beer, this one, but it certainly looks like more of a New England IPA or New England Session IPA, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, quite quirky looking, this one. So let's have a look at the aroma then and see how we get on with this. Oh, and it actually smells kind of like a pale ale as well, to be honest. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that it really is very, very bready. So straight away with this one, you get a lovely kind of white bready quality coming out of it. It has got a wee bit of a kind of wheatiness. You can smell a little bit of a bitey, wheaty thing, and it does actually. It says on the back that it's actually got oats in it, so it's kind of unusual for a pilsner to have oats in it, I have to say. So that's probably what's given it the big kind of bready backbone that it has, is that kind of smooth, that kind of oaty note. But I would have thought it was wheat because it does have a little touch of bitiness to it. So yeah, nice little bit of a white bready kind of pale malty quality to the beer. You can, it's probably the power of suggestion right enough, but you can get that kind of smooth oaty note out of it. I find that there's a little bit of a biscuity sort of thing, so I wouldn't be surprised if there's a wee bit of like carapils or something like that in this. And the breadiness that you get out of this comes across as if it might be a little bit of Munich malt or something. So yeah, that's quite an interesting point to make about this one. A lovely smooth kind of white German bready note out of this beer. As I've told you before, I used to live in Heidelberg in Germany. I wrote my master's thesis in chemistry down there, and I missed the German bakery so much. The German bread was beautiful, but yeah, this one for me smells as if it's got a little bit of like Munich malt in it. It's just got that kind of Munich smoothness to it, if that makes sense. So yeah, lovely kind of white bready base to the beer. You can get a bit of that oaty creaminess. There does smell as if there's a wee bit of wheaty bitiness to me, and you've also got a wee touch of a kind of biscuity kind of quality. And I do think there's a wee bit of carapils in this one. You can smell the Pilsner malt coming out of this actually. And Pilsner malt, as I've told you before, is a very annoying one to try and describe for you guys, because it really gives the beer just that, you can smell the crispness off it, and it doesn't really smell of anything, but it's that you just smell that crispness. Pilsner malt is very, very distinctive that way. But yeah, the aroma of this one comes across very nicely on the malty side of things. So I'm just very, very curious about the oats that are in this, because I think it's probably the oats that's given this beer most of its haze, come to think of it. But yeah, on the hoppy side of things then, what would we say about that? So yeah, you get a wee touch of a kind of earthiness out of this one. I do wonder if there is a bit of, I think there might be a German noble hop in here, or maybe a Czech hop actually, maybe a little bit of Czech Sats or Žatec or something, because the floral notes are just a little bit brighter. So yeah, nice little bit of a smooth earthiness to it. It's got a wee touch of herbal note as well, some bright floral notes, quite a light grassy sort of thing. I would say that the green side of the hops in this beer for me lean towards the they really lean a little bit towards the grassy side of things rather than anything else. They're not too floral and pungent, if you like. Some of the big American hops will have a bigger kind of floral aromaticity to them. So I would definitely say that. On the fruity side of things, this beer has, it's got a really nice kind of smooth tropical type note to it. I would say there's a wee bit of an almost kind of little passion fruity or mango note coming out of this one. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a little bit of Simcoe that's in this one, or maybe a wee... I'd actually say it's more likely to be Simcoe than Citra, to be honest with you. There is just a wee touch of that kind of really smooth, kind of passion fruity note coming out of this one. So I would want to say there's a wee bit of Simcoe in this actually. So this could be quite interesting. Maybe a Simcoe Simcoe and oat hopped Pilsner beer. This one, it's really quite an unusual combination, to be quite honest with you. But you do get a few kind of peary esters out of it as well, and you get a little bit of that grassy kind of zestiness on the aroma as well. So yeah, definitely take a little bit of time to enjoy the aroma of this beer before you get stuck into it. But we're going to have a taste of this one now and see how we go. And I have to say, in terms of Pilsners, the aroma and the appearance of this one is quite unusual, I have to say, so far. So hopefully this does turn out to be quite a nice tasting beer. But let's go for it. This one is the Pons Pils Unfiltered, 5.2% ABV from Coppersmiths Brewery in Västerås, out to the west of Stockholm here in Sweden. Let's get stuck in. Slange, skål. It certainly does come across a little bit more lager-like in the mouthfeel, that's for sure. Yeah, that is a pretty damn nice beer. It's quite a quirky beer, this, rather than anything else, to be honest with you. It's definitely not a conventional sort of Pilsner, to be honest with you. It is more of a it's almost very much more like a very light kind of paleo, to be honest. It does have that kind of Pilsner kind of mouthfeel to it, in fairness, but yeah, it's definitely not a Pils in the conventional sense, definitely not. I was expecting this one to be a sort of straight up, German kind of Pilsner beer, but it really comes across as more like a very kind of sessionable, session IPA kind of thing, or a New England Pale Ale or something like that. But the main question should be, is it a nice beer? I think yes. But as I say, stylistically a Pils, I'm not sure about that. But yeah, it is. That's the main thing with this. Is it a very nice? Is it a nice beer? I think yeah, I really quite like this one. I would say it's you know, I guess it's one of these things. It's like, what is the definition of a Pilsner beer? I mean, usually the Pilsner is very light and crisp. It does have that to it. The oatiness is the thing I think that really makes this a little bit unusual. I don't know if there is a rule somewhere, you know, that Pilsners couldn't have oats in them. I don't know if the city of Pilsen had these laws in place, like the Reinheitsgebot, where you couldn't add oats and things to the beer. This is certainly the first Pilsner I can think of where they've added oats into it. So that's that is definitely an interesting thing to think about with this one. So yeah, do let me know if you guys know anything about that in the comment section below, incidentally. But yeah, the main definition of a lager beer is a cold fermentation. I believe it's bottom fermentation, if I'm remembering rightly. But yeah, the quality of this beer is very nice. You know, as I say, I'm being picky about the kind of style definition of this beer, but the main question, like I say, should be, is it nice? And it definitely is. I like this one. It's throwing me off because it's quite a quirky beer, and you know, after 2,400 reviews, you do want beers that are going to make you think a little bit, and this one is certainly doing that. So we'll give it ticks in the boxes for that, definitely. So yeah, let's just break down the flavour of this then and see how we go. So straight away you can get that nice kind of white bready quality. That just blankets the middle of your tongue. You do get a little bit of that Pilsner kind of crispness to the beer, but you know, that kind of pale malty quality, it blankets the middle third of your palate and the back third of your palate. You can feel on the back third of your palate that it just, you can feel that it does kind of thicken up a little bit. There is a little bit of a more kind of thick bready note there on the back third of your palate. There's a few little kind of grainy notes coming out of it as well. You do get a little bit of an almost wheaty type bitiness there, but then as you move further forward into the middle third of your palate, it does kind of get a little bit thinner. There's a little bit of a lighter kind of there is a little bit of a lighter base to it in the middle. There's a wee touch of an almost, there's a tiny little bit of a biscuity note to this one, but for me it's mainly the kind of oaty smoothness that comes out of the beer as you go further into the middle third of your palate. It's a very bready kind of smooth Pilsner, and in fairness, you can get some Pilsners that are very dry. Case in point would be the Pivot Pils and the Ecta Pils that I've had recently from OO Brewing in Gothenburg. They do really dry Pilsners actually. Whereas when it comes to the kind of the Pilsner style, I personally prefer them to just be a little touch sweeter. Case in point would be the Skånsk Lager from you know, from Skånsk Lager from Hylia Brewery down here in Skåne. But this one's definitely more of a kind of smooth, oaty, bready kind of thing, and this is a very, very quirky Pilsner in that sense. It's the smoothness of the oats that really puts this up, that kind of makes this one seem a bit strange to me, because normally you would expect to have a little bit of a biscuity, caramelly thing in the middle of your palate with this one. And yeah, I mean, if you had a bit of the oatiness as well as a little bit of that kind of Carapils sort of thing, and I was picking up some Carapils in the Aroma, pardon me. So yeah, it's quite unusual that this one has, it's just so kind of straight up and bready. The malt base is really straight shooting on this. It's very, very straightforward in my mind. So yeah, I do like how that goes together in this one. But yeah, on the hoppy side of things then, back corners of the palate, there is a wee touch of earthiness there. As you move further forward along the sides of the tongue, it does have a little bit of floral aromaticity to it. I think it is American hops. I would not be surprised if it's a bit of Simcoe that's in here. Yeah, could, you know, Centennial might be another option, but it's not quite, the zestiness out of this one isn't quite Centennial in my mind. But yeah, I'd be curious to know what hop it is that's in that one. I can't quite pick it out. I'm better at picking out the hops when they're in the IPA malt base, to be honest. But yeah, you do get a nice little bit of a smooth kind of floral aromaticity with this one. I would guess that they're probably using one of the noble hops in here, you know, the Czech Sats, Žatec, or the Hallertau hops, or maybe even, you know, a Slovenian hop, the Styrian Golding or something like that. Yeah, you do get a little bit of that along the sides of the palate here, and on top of that though you get a little bit of the more American hop, the kind of big floral aromaticity coming out of the beer. But as you go round the front curve of the palate, it's distinctly lighter and more grassy in my mind, so I like how that goes together. But yeah, in terms of the fruitiness of this beer, this is where it's quite interesting actually. So on that front third of your palate, as I always say, that's where you get the nice oily bubble, where the juicy fruity ester makes it out of the beer. It just rolls out there. So if you go towards the back of that front third of your tongue, there is a wee bit of a kind of pungenty passion fruity note, but as you move further forward, it is kind of distinctly more mango, or kind of smoother, if that makes sense. It's got a nice light kind of tropical quality to it. So I would say that this beer is, I want to say it's Simcoe that's in this, because Citra, if it was Citra, I think it would have quite a bit more complexity to it. Citra has a little bit more complexity to it than Simcoe does. So yeah, for me this one is mainly kind of smooth, passion fruity, and it does get a little bit more mango-y, to be honest, and that to me is a lot more characteristic of Simcoe. Actually, Simcoe is very soft when you mix it with the more oaty malt base. It's a bit more oily and pungent, if you like, when you put it in a more caramelly malt base like a West Coast IPA. But yeah, the flavour of this beer, it is quite nice. As I say, it's the oatiness and the malt base that's really quite quirky in terms of the Pilsner style actually. So yeah, if I was blind tasting this one, I would think it was like a session IPA or a kind of a pale ale or something like that. I think it's a little bit hard to pick out that this is a Pilsner, I would say. But the question is it a nice beer? And I think so. I would just always expect a little bit more biscuity kind of sweetness out of a Pilsner, in fairness. But do I like the beer? Yes, and that's the main thing. But yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel then, what would we say about it? It is a little bit, I would say this is quite a light-bodied beer. I think that's definitely fair. Yeah, kind of at the top end of light-bodied for me. The carbonation is quite crisp in this one. It's got a nice little bit of wetness there. There's a wee slight touch of oiliness to it. It's quite slick actually. But in terms of hoppy bitterness, I think we're looking about 20 IBUs at most with this one. Smooth. You know, kind of smooth malty base to the beer. Not really much sweetness, it is mainly quite smooth, and like I say, you've also got a nice little bit of a lighter kind of fruity quality to it as well. So I really like how this one goes together. For me, it gets a thumbs up. As I say, it's just the stylistic side of me is like, yeah, this one isn't quite, it's not a normal Pilsner, let's just say that, but it is a very nice beer. I would probably more be inclined to class this one as like a session pale ale or session IPA, something like that, but it is really quite nice. So we'll say thumbs up to Coppersmiths Brewery for this one. And this one really makes me curious to see what the Mosaic Lager is like actually. So yeah, I'm curious to see if that one is a little bit more kind of authentic. You maybe could get away with saying this one is a Helles, but again, the Munich Helles doesn't really have the oaty kind of note to it like this one does, and the Czech version of the Helles, the Svetli, is a little bit more kind of smoother and bready than this. This one, even though it's oaty, it does have a little bit more of crispness to it actually. So yeah, really interesting beer, this one. I have enjoyed reviewing this for you. Like I say, a very quirky one that for me doesn't really fit the Pilsner style, if you like, but I think it is a solid beer. So I'm definitely going to keep an eye on what Coppersmiths are doing over the next little while, and as I say, I look forward to the Mosaic Lager review now, so you guys will see that in a couple of videos time. But yeah guys, thank you again for watching my reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Coppersmiths Brewery. We will return to these guys very soon for the Mosaic Lager, and beyond that you will see some more reviews as well. But thank you again for watching, and I'll catch you guys very soon. This one was the Pons Pils Unfiltered version, 5.2% ABV from Coppersmiths Brewery in Västerås, out to the west of Stockholm here in Sweden. Slange, skål, cheers.